Hello, in this video I'll be talking about arrays in Java. So when you talk about arrays, it's something like storing similar variables under just one name. So let's say you have a bunch of values which you're going to use to calculate the mean. Now those values can be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 that you're going to perform just a similar arithmetic functions or operation on them. So there's no need storing those values in different variables, something like number one, number two, number three, number four. It's going to take a ton of memories, which will be some kind of not a proper way of coding. So arrays are designed to make such projects easy. So this is how you do it in Java. So let's take for example, we are storing arrays of integer values. So we can type int. Now after the int, we bring square brackets, which is denoting that we are going to take a group of arrays. And this arrays is called one-dimensional array or a normal array. So we can name this numbers is equal to. Now there are two ways to instantiate or initialize an array. This is the first way. So this is the first and the default way. New ints. And inside the second square braces here, we are going to take the number of elements which will be inside the array. So let's say we are going to take 4 elements. So now the array is empty. If you print it out, there's no value in it. So let's try getting some values into it. So to do that, we type the name of the arrays and index number. Now inside the square braces here, it will be an index. Although we place 4 here, the 4 here means the number of elements, but at this place we are going to start from 0, which means at index position of 0 we're going to put a number there. So let's put a random number like 2. So indexing in Java starts from 0. So let's continue. Numbers at index position 1. So let's give it a random value like 5. Numbers at index position of 2. Let's give it a random value like 7. Numbers at index position of 3. Let's give it 1. Now, how many numbers do we have here? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our array is being satisfied. We have 4 values here, starting the index from 0. So that's how we do it. Now, what if you want to access all the elements in this array? So we do that by using a for loop to iterate through the values. So for int I equals to 0. So for arrays, when iterating using this kind of for loop, we start from 0. We don't start from 1, or else it will give you an error. So I less than. Now in hard coding, we can put 4 here. Then we have I plus plus. Then you continue your code. But I won't advise this. In case you feel like changing your number of elements here, there's no need to come here and change again. So to do that, we can quickly write numbers dot length. That means whatever the length here, it will be automatically read by this loop here. So let's continue. Now inside this, we can have system.out.print numbers at index position of I. So you can see that we are now using this index here. So as this is starting from 0, the one at index position 0 will be printed first. That's 2. At index position of 1, which is the second iteration, the number inside 1 will be printed up to the last program. So let's run this. So we have our 2, 5, 7, and 1 printed here for us. Now let's try something by adding this to 4 and see what is going to happen. So let's change here to 4. Now let's run the project. Now we have an exception, which is an error, which says that array index out of bounds exception. The reason is because on line 12 here, we have an array here which is out of bounds, which means that we have to take only 4 elements and we are taking more than that. And this is giving us an array index out of bounds exception. So this is how an array can be printed. Now we can do more complex calculations using this. Now let's try something here. Let's declare a variable called sum. So int sum equals 0. Now inside here we can say sum is equal to, now we can do plus equals, then we write numbers at index position of I. Now this is what is happening. The first time the loop will iterate, the value here will be 2 and it will be added to sum. Sum here is basically 0. So when it's added to sum, it becomes 2. The second time the loop will iterate, it will be 5 and the 5 will be added to the sum, which 2 is already existing here. So when it adds to it, it turns to 7. The next time it will be 7 adding to that 7, making it 14. And at the end, we will have our total sum being um, calculated. So let's print out sum. So sum of the array is, now let's have our sum here. So let's run the project now. So you have sum of the array is 15. So 2 plus 5 will give us 7. Plus 7 will be 15. And plus 1 will give us, sorry, plus 7 here will be 14, not 15. Then we add a 1 to it to make it 15. So let's say you are trying to find a mean. And finding mean, we sum everything and divide it by the total number of elements, which is definitely the average of it. So we can have something, a variable here called, so we have here average, and this should be inside a double since it can give us a decimal value. So double average is equal to, you can give it 0 or 0.0, whichever way, it's your choice. Now inside the loop again, we have average to be equal to the sum. Now this shouldn't be done inside the loop since the sum is going to change from time to time. So I think doing it outside the loop will be better. So we have average equal to sum divided by 4, which is the number of elements there. Now there's something we're going to do. So let's change the for radar to numbers.length since we are doing according to the number. Now the sum here is an integer value which we are trying to store inside a double. So we have to cast this into a double implicitly. It doesn't work that way. So you have to change here to double, which means that sum here is no more an integer but rather a double. So let's try printing our average and see. So let's run our project. So we are going to have 15 divided by 4 and the value of it is 3.75. So this is simply our average value. Now let's try putting this inside the loop and see if we can have a successful answer. So we still have a successful answer, which means it can also work inside a loop. So the caution I'll be giving is whenever you are trying to assign an integer value or operate two integer values and give the final value to a double, you have to cast the double x implicitly to the integer value to make it able to accept the value, else you run into an error. So let's take off this and try running. So automatically you can see this is highlighted, which gives us a warning. So let's hover over this and see. So it says that sum here divided by this is an integer division in a floating point context. So you are going to give this to a floating point context, which is basically illegal. So running this, so an illegal project gives an illegal answer. Garbage in, garbage out. It gives us 3.0, but 3.0 is not the exact value. So it's rounded it, which that's not what we want. So we want high level of accuracy. So to do that, we have to bring our double here and have our project perfectly created for us. So let's go ahead and look at the second way to initialize an array. So let me comment. Okay, let me take off this. Now, this is how we do the second one. Here we bring open and close brackets, then you pass in the values in it. So let's take back the first values. So I'll take off this and bring this. So we have 2, we have 5, we have 7, and we have 1. So now we can successfully take away everything here. Now let's run the project once more. So there's not much change here. We just change the way we initialize the arrays. So you can see we have the same values here. We have 15 and we have 3.75. Then above here we have 2, 5, 7, and 1. So this is how we type or we use arrays in Java and print the values of the arrays out. So if you find this video helpful, then please support me by subscribing to this channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and you click on the bell notification to get notified as soon as I release a new video. Make sure you like the video and see you in the next video. So in the next video, I'll be talking more about these arrays and how to use the enhanced for loop in the arrays. Thank you and see you in the next video. Bye.